everybody, Mrs. Bodechon here. So today we're talking all about the moon phases. So first, the light that you're seeing coming from the moon is actually sunshine. So the moon does not produce its own light at all. It's basically just a big rock, right? So sunshine comes down, hits the moon's surface, and reflects towards Earth into our eyes, and that's the light that we see from the moon. It's actually from the sun, okay? Now, the sunshine will always hit half of the moon, pretty much, unless there's an eclipse, all right? So at any given point, because the moon evolves and rotates around the Earth, it will be at different angles to us, so we won't be able to see the full half that's being shined on by the sun. So we're going to see different portions of the moon depending on what time of month it is, right? As it goes around its moon phases and moon cycle. So let's take a closer look at that. So first, it does take a month, or roughly a month, for the moon to go through all of its phases, about 30 days. And it's going to start with a new moon, and we're going to just call this day 0, right? And you're not really going to see a moon then. And we're going to go through a process that's called waxing. So as the moon is waxing, it's going to grow in that percentage of the light that's being reflected from the moon, and we're going to see more and more of it as the days go on until about day 14 or 15, like right in the middle of the month, right? Or the month cycle, I should say. You're going to be able to see a full moon. And this is the most that we'll see from the moon at any given point, because we're actually seeing the total percentage of the sun's light being reflected, that full half, all right? Then what's going to happen is we're going to go through a process of waning. And this waning process, it's going to shrink the percentage of the light from the moon that we're seeing over time. And so we go back to the beginning, and you can see it is a cycle. It will just keep going around and around about every 30 days. Now, this is not exact, but it is about every 30 days. So let's start by talking about a full moon. So a full moon is pretty cool because when you look at the night sky, you can't see the moon. You're like, where is it? I don't know. I can't see it, right? So a new moon is really where you can see no light being reflected from the sun. You can see in this picture, there's just like a tiny, tiny little sliver just to show you that, hey, the moon is there still, right? It didn't disappear. It didn't go anywhere. But we can't really see it in the night sky. Now, this will change into a crescent. And the crescent is going to be the moon phase that is right before new moon, either waxing or waning, okay? So when you're waxing, you're going to have this little sliver. A crescent is when you just see a very small portion of the moon's light, and it does make a crescent shape. So that's when it's pretty easy to remember, right? So when it's waxing, you're going to see it on the right, and when it's waning, you're going to actually see it on the left. Now, it's going to move into, from crescent, you're going to move into your first quarter. So if you're going from new moon, you're going to do your waxing crescent, and then your first quarter. And your first quarter, you're going to see literally a quarter of the moon. And remember, if it's waxing, it will be on the right-hand side where you see that light being shined. And then when it's waning, you'll see the same portion, that quarter of the moon, but this time it will be on the left-hand side, showing you that, hey, we're decreasing that light, and we're going to go back into a new moon soon, okay? Now, a gibbous is the next phase. So if you're going through a waxing gibbous, the majority of the light being shined will be on the right-hand side, letting you know it's going to be a full moon soon, right? So that's going to be the majority of the moon is filled in or being reflected into our eyes with the light from the sun. And then if we have a waning gibbous, the majority of the light that's being reflected will be on the left-hand side, so you won't be able to see this little small right-hand portion very much. It will just be dark night sky, right? And that lets you know, hey, we just had a full moon, now we're going back towards having a new moon again eventually, right? And then full moon, you guys, is when it's in perfect line with the sun, the earth, and the full moon will be over here. This is without an eclipse, I will say that, okay? Now, this is when we have half of the moon shining at us and being reflected into our eyes from the sun. So we can see the full portion of the sunlight hitting the moon and being reflected into our eyes. So this is what it looks like overall. So this is the big picture, all right? So I did all the waxing on top and I did all the waning on the bottom, so you could really get a good look at this. So if the sun is positioned over here and the earth is in the middle, you can see that we start with a new moon, we move to a waxing crescent, then a waxing first quarter, or just first quarter, you don't really have to say waxing there, and then we have a waxing gibbous, and that will turn into a full moon, and then we'll have a waning, right, because now we're going and we're decreasing that light, so we'll have a waning gibbous, a second quarter, and then a waning crescent, and we'll start the moon cycles again, or the moon phases again, with a new moon. So just recognize, when you have waxing, you see the light portion on the right hand side of the moon, and when you see waning, you're going to see that light portion on the left hand side of the moon. I hope this was helpful, you guys. Thank you. Hey you guys, if you learned something from this video, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can see all my new ones that are coming out. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye everybody.